Hi, I'm Bryden Fizer, and welcome to episode 1 of PAP, Pulling Apart Poetry. Today we will discuss one of my favorite poems from the dude with remarkable feelings and intelligence, the person who's responsible for translating nature into poetry. That's right, you guessed it, William Wordsworth. Today we are pulling apart his poem, Lines Composed. If you want to read the poem before we start, link will be in the description. Let's jump right into it. The poem expresses Wordsworth's feelings about returning to a location he had originally visited in his early years and touches on the beauty of the surrounding landscape. It also explains Wordsworth's life and his perspective changing over time. This piece of poetry is a monologue in that one person creatively speaks to themselves. I enjoyed this poem because of its complexity of emotion and its comparison between the past and the present. At first, it seemed as though it was a nostalgic reflection on a happy memory. However, it slowly descended into a bittersweet memory, talking about how the place he was in happened to be the same place that his sister was. Another cool thing is that this poem is actually real, thus making emotions and visuals raw. So when I was reading the poem, it felt I could feel everything that he was describing. It really took a hold of me and got me hooked. It's deep dive time. This is when we go deep into a poem, analyze specific lines, and discuss things like meter, rhyme, and imagery. We are going to start today's deep dive with meter and rhyme. For those of you out there who don't understand what rhyme is or meter, let me give you a quick explanation. The meter is how much a syllable is meant to be stressed and the poem's reading rhythm. In this case, in Lines Composed, it is written in iambic pentameter with unrhymed lines. There are no specific rhyming schemes. So this is known as free verse. Wordsworth maintains his meter. However, some of the lines are different from the other line stress patterns, but they are able to vaguely fit. For example, in this line here from line 10, it is one of the different lines. Now, let's pick and choose a few lines from the poem to analyze now that we have discussed meter and rhyme. We'll start by dissecting lines 23 and 24. Wordsworth states that these beauteous forms, through a long absence, have not been to me. Here, the poet stresses the beauty of nature through the phrase beauteous forms and reminisces about being in nature in the line stating, through a long absence have not been to me. Lines 137 to 146 are more guilty of highfalutin diction, using phrases and words such as wild ecstasies, thy mind, wilt thou, and exhortations. Wordsworth is writing of what might be in the future and that he might not be there. He is saying all this specifically using second-person view, with words like thou and thy. He is talking to someone specifically in this line. And after years, so years from now, when your mind shall be a mansion for all lovely forms, your memory will be a dwelling place. This memory could have multiple meanings: solitude, or fear, or pain, or grief maybe. Wordsworth hopes that his excursion will make his sister think favorably of him, and wonders if she will appreciate him. He also regrets the possibility that she might not be going through solitude, or fear, or pain, or even grief throughout future years. In line 145, he says, "Of tender joy wilt thou remember me." He assumes that he will be out of the picture. Jumping over to the topic of imagery, Wordsworth uses imagery to illustrate the idea of imagination and vision. The poem's main theme is the speaker's ability to contrast what he remembers from the scenario, using his mind versus what he actually sees with his eyes. Metaphor! Yeah, that's correct. We just did that. The eyes separate the poet's thinking and the scene in front of him, in the literal sense. In line 24, the speaker talks about a landscape to a blind man's eye, to explain that he could visualize the river through his imagination while he was gone. Another use of imagery that tailors towards the imagination and vision theme is in line 47. The speaker talks about how beautiful the view of the river is and how it relaxes him, has a relaxing effect. His eye is made quiet, not fidgety. What his eye sees puts his mind and body at peace. The vision is relaxing. Now, time to jump to line 141, where Wordsworth says, "When these wild ecstasies shall be matured." This is a very reflective poem in the sense that he dwells on different things. But he is almost having that out-of-body experience, kind of like being put on the drug, ecstasy. He is really drilling down into the one experience of pleasure. This is a solitary with his sister. Definitely not a party atmosphere. However, there are commonalities in that if the ecstasy is the right name for his emotion, then it's also the right name for the drug because it has a similar feeling that he's feeling. I understand that this drug might not have been existed in the time period when the poem was written. However, the great thing about pulling apart poetry is we can draw so many commonalities and ideas from our time period and tie it together with their. The beauty of poetry. People can view this poem in different ways. How will you view it? Please comment down below with your thoughts and views on this piece of literature. Thank you for watching this episode of PAP, Pulling Apart Poetry. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and thank you.